Get that paper, told that Glock, that's how we live. Yeah, my life's a game, I pray I don't get killed. They can't believe I got to go out this shit for real. Can't accept the fact my brother gone, I wanna kill. Yeah, I can't go for that shit don't sit right. Instead of cabin to the old nigga, I know what you live like. Ain't worried about all just fuck these hoes and live life. I go on the drill, I'm smart enough, you gotta know how to kill.
The final whistle shrieked. It swallowed by a thunderous roar. The stadium lights, a brilliant galaxy, fell upon the uniforms of the players below. A goal, a single, yet perfect strike, had echoed throughout the arena. Securing an impossible victory, Japan, a nation that hadn't tasted glory within decades, had just won the U20 World Cup. And the final triumphant goal, it belonged to no one other than Yoichi Isagi. As he celebrated with his team, hoisting a golden trophy, Isagi's mind raced through a long, grueling journey that had led him to this moment. Weeks later, that ecstatic high, it was a distant echo, as now he sat in the back of a luxury van, the world a blur on the outside of the window. He was on his way to meet with Jinpachi Ego. The new reality, it just hadn't set in with him yet. Contracts from top-tier teams around the globe flooded his inbox, with rivals like Michael Kaiser and Julian Loki still at the top of their game. His next move, it had to be flawless. Lost in thought, his phone buzzed, and just as he reached for it, a sudden, blinding flash. A semi-truck, a metal titan of destruction, would then slam into the van, crushing it against a building. Silence. A deafening silence. Absolute, even. Isagi clung onto the flicker of life that he held. His vision blurred, his legs numb. He looked down at the screen on his phone as it began to glow. A final ironic message from Jinpachi Ego himself. Are you ready to start your new life? Then came a suffocating darkness. He was floating within a silent void. So, this is death, he thought. It's quiet, almost comforting. Does this place, does it have an end? A voice, familiar, but faint at first. Then, insistent, called out his name. He began chasing the sound, clawing his way through the darkness until he gasped, waking up in a cold sweat. He blinked, the harsh light filling his room, and then his eyes. Standing over him, her face filled with concern. It was his mother. I know you wanted a good night's sleep before the big game, but you need to get up or you'll be late to meet the team. Isagi stared at his hands. They felt so real, solid. He could feel the blood flowing throughout his body, but he was sure of it. He just died. So this was too real to be some sort of afterlife. So what was it? Looking around his room, he sees that everything remained the same. Wait, Mom, what day is it? His mother chuckled. That's a silly question. It's the day of the National High School Football Championship match. We've been talking about it for weeks now. Now go get ready. You know the team can't leave without you. She closed the door. And it left Isagi stunned in his own silence. He was back to the day it all began. He took a long, shaky breath. But then a new fire ignited within his eyes. This time, he whispered, it'll be different. On the bus ride to the stadium, Isagi sat alone, lost in thought. He wondered if his skills were still intact, or if his newfound abilities had been sealed away. But as he ran through a few mental drills, he could feel it. The same physical strength, the same tactical mind. It was all there. He had been given a second chance, a chance to rewrite his story and avoid his past mistakes. Arriving at the field, he noticed that his teammates were all about teamwork. It was far from the cry of the ruthless individualism that Jinpachi ego demanded. He played along, keeping his true abilities hidden and waiting for the perfect moment. Soon, the match would start, and it would be tied. The final seconds began to tick down. The ball was passed to him. 3 defenders stood between himself and the goal. He almost had a deja vu moment of the Neo-Egoist League, as it almost reflected the positioning of Ikiniko, Oliver Aiku, and even Don Lorenzo. But these 3 players in front of him couldn't hold a candle to those players, even with their eyes closed. Isagi lunged forward. In this moment, pure clarity drew upon his memories. Using them as a catalyst, he entered a state of true flow. He executed a flawless step over, leaving the first defender gasping for air as he fell to the ground. Then the other would come, pushing off with his own strength. Space was given. He then spins around him, moving forward. The last defender rushed in, trying to catch Isagi off guard from the spin. A teammate screamed for a pass. Isagi met his gaze, a cold determination within his eyes. I'd rather die again than give up this moment. Thinking back to what he did in his previous life, he forgoes that, stepping forward with new determination. Jumping past his defender, he unleashed a direct shot, a perfect strike that won them the game. After this, reporters began to swarm him. A woman is able to thrust her microphone within his face, asking about his goals. Isagi looked directly into the camera. "It's simple," he said, his voice ringing with absolute clarity. "To become the best in the world and bring Japan a World Cup. That's the only goal that I have." Weeks after this championship victory, the letters began to arrive. Offers from prestigious academies and elite practice squads flooded his mailbox. His parents urged him to decide, but Yoichi Isagi was waiting on something else. Then, it finally came, an envelope from Blue Lock. He crushed the paper within his hands, a fierce smirk upon his face. The Demon King was preparing his return. Weeks leading up to Blue Lock were dedicated to training. He needed to confirm it all. He had lost nothing. His unique spatial awareness, his metavision, his devastating direct shot, and any other technique that he had mastered, they were all still here, ingrained into his mind and body, almost as if they were a part of his soul that was returned in this life. This wasn't a second chance at all. It was like a new game plus. His potential, it felt limitless, and his ambition was perfect. This was a gift almost, and he needed to use it to its fullest extent. He began mapping out a plan to reach a level even higher than his previous life, knowing the true challenges that laid ahead of him. Days later, he stood at the entrance, hesitating for a moment, the memories of his first time here swirling in his mind. A familiar voice called out, "Isagi! Yoichi Isagi!" It was Kira. Isagi feigned in ignorance until Kira began to mention their last match. The memory clicked into place. Kira, the once talented player from Team Z. And he was a part of the infamous Barasuta 3, who had tried to sabotage Blue Lock from within. A new thought ignited within his mind. What if Kira had stayed within Blue Lock? How could he have used him to climb even higher? Could this be the piece that he was missing? Thinking of it, the two of them were similar. two sides of the same coin. Isagi believed he would have been in Kira's position if he was the one eliminated. So what could happen if both of them stayed? After the initial announcement, the players returned to the facility weeks later. As he then stepped off a bus, Isagi noticed that he was still on Team Z. However, his number this time was 289, the highest rank on the team from what he could remember. A stark contrast to his original start. He moved into the room with the others, with all the familiar faces from this time around. Looking at Kunigami, it almost made him emotional in a sense. The life within his eyes, it was still there. Nothing had changed just yet. Kunigami was still the original hero. But Isagi knew that that wouldn't last either. The game of tag began. Before Igarashi could even tag someone, Isagi darted forward, using Igarashi's blind spot to steal the ball. He became it. With 30 seconds left, he moved around ruthlessly and efficient, tagging every person within the room until only Igarashi remained. He eliminated Monk from the start here. He knows what this could lead to later, but he would take that risk. This was only a display of skill that left no one in doubt of his superiority. With a new path forged, he would use Kira to dominate Blue Lock and reclaim his throne. The grueling days of training began. Before Isagi, it felt effortless. He was in perfect shape. He was already a step ahead of his teammates, but this wasn't enough. He needed to surpass, not settle. So he began pushing his body and his skills to their limit. He knew the legends of this world. Julian Loki, the God Sprinter. Michael Kaiser, God's chosen emperor. Itoshi Sai, Japan's true prodigy. And even Bunny. This was a level that he wanted to reach, no matter the cost. When Jinpachi Ego announced the first selection, it was obvious to everyone that Isagi should be the striker. They then began to discuss the other positions, but Isagi took charge, moving Bachira to the front alongside him. Then he designated Chigiri and Kira as their wingers. As in the center mid position, he placed Kunigami and Raichi. Though they initially argued, Isagi simply left the room, leaving them to figure out the rest. Bachira would soon join his training. He began to ask about Isagi's goals and what truly drove him. Isagi looked at his friend as he saw the same boy who was still motivated by his inner monster, if that's what he called it still. Isagi remembered the words that Bachira once told him, using them on this version of Bachira before him. "You know that monster of yours you mentioned to me before?" Isagi said, capturing Bachira's attention. "Make sure that as you grow stronger, it's always evolving with you. It sounds like it'll be your greatest ally if nurtured well." Bachira's eyes widened, the words resonating with him on a deeper level, as he hadn't thought of this thus far. They decided to play 1v1. Isagi scored on Bachira again and again, a masterclass of skill that left Bachira in awe. However, Isagi was still holding back. He had known Isagi was strong, but he was in a completely different world. Bachira wondered if he could even reach that level, and Isagi simply told him to go for it. They shared a quiet meal together before heading back to the room and sleeping that night. The next day, arriving on the pitch, Isagi's mind was racing. He was trying to remember every detail of Blue Lock from the beginning. Then, he was trying to remember the opponent that they faced first. That's right, he thought. Shohei Baru, a selfish striker who saved us in the U20 match against Japan's original team. He was an immovable obstacle, someone I couldn't surpass for a long time. But not this time. Here, I'll be the unstoppable force. The game began, and Team X's attack began. Baru charged forward with the ball, but was met head-on by Bachira. "Me and my monster won't let you slip by so easily." Bachira's monster would appear around him, as it too would try to steal the ball, He was taunting him. Baru tried to get out of the way with an in and out cross, but Megumi Bachara stayed with him. His movements, fluid and quick. He realized with that jolt that Baru was nowhere near as fast as Isagi, making him much easier to keep up with. As Baru prepared to cut back and change direction, the ball vanished. What the? He spun to see it, but then he was only met by the eyes of Yoichi Isagi and a smug smirk on his face. Isagi had utilized the king's blind spot to steal the ball and was already moving forward. With the opposing midfielders closing in, he skipped the ball to his left wing. Hayomi Chiguri watched as the ball bounced perfectly towards him, looking at Isagi, who uttered the words "run." Thoughts flickering within his mind. Could Isagi sense his speed? Was it a coincidence? No, it didn't matter. None of it mattered. He was here for his own reasons. If this would be the moment that needed to test it, this would test his resolve. Did he truly want to remain in Blue Lock, or would he wither away once again from his past injuries? No, he wouldn't allow that in this moment. He would begin to break the chains of his past. Lunging forward, his speed, focused, on full display here. No one expected this kind of explosion, and he had a clear lane to the goal, but instead of shooting, he crossed the ball back to the center. Isagi leaped to meet it, but from behind him, a furious Baru reached out, snarling, "I'll crush you beneath my feet, you peasant." Isagi ignored him, and was able to push off the physical move. Reminiscent, he shows off something new. A volley that almost copied New Gen 11 Bunny's performance to a T. A perfect volley in this moment. The super goal sent a shockwave that ripped through each player's memories on the pitch. The monstrous strike echoed throughout their minds and hearts. As Isagi landed, he clenched his fist. Jinpachi Ego, who was observing the match, stood up, leaning towards the screen. His voice, a mix of disbelief but fascination. It echoed through the comms as he would look at Henri, who was standing there, and then back at the screen. Just who are you, Yoichi Isagi? So this is where I plan to leave off the story for now. If you enjoyed it and wish to see another part, drop a like and a comment below. For those of you new to my channel, consider subscribing as I drop content like this more often now. Anyways, what do you guys think of the story thus far? Isagi being reborn with his abilities and mental prowess. Something that could completely shift the balance of the world of football and within Blue Lock. Drop down any ideas or moments that you can't wait for in the comments. As this is Zero, and I'll catch you all on the next one.